There's my audience. Imagine this scenario. You're driving down the highway and bam, you see an accident happen right in front of you. So being the good Samaritan I think you are, you're gonna pull over, see if they're okay. Upon getting there, you realize that there's a man bleeding profusely out of his leg. What are you gonna do? So I have been through Stop the Bleed training and I'm a certified instructor for the course. I also work in the emergency department as a tech at St. Luke's and have seen firsthand just how this information can save somebody's life. So why do you care? What does this have to do with you? If that victim from the scenario is you or a family member, I can guarantee that you would want somebody to have this information in order to save their life. Also, if that's you and you're the only person there, you need to know this in order to stop your own bleeding and save your own life. Stop the Bleed is a national campaign jointly run by the American College of Surgeons Committee on Trauma and the U.S. Department of Defense in order to inform the public how to recognize a life-threatening bleed and give them the tools to stop it. So throughout this speech, we're going to cover how to recognize a life-threatening bleed, how to hold pressure, how to pack a wound, and how to apply a tourniquet. All of this information we're about to cover comes directly from the American College of Surgeons. Just to preface this, I want to have a little chit-chat about safety. So when you come across a scene and you're going to try to help somebody, you need to take your own safety into account before their own, or before that victim's. I know that sounds mean, but you cannot help somebody if you're dead, if you get hit by a car, if their car blows up, whatever it may be. You're no good at helping somebody if you're hurt. So now that that's out of the way, Stop the Bleed comes through the forms of ABCs. So A stands for Alert 911. If you're the only one there, you're going to call 911, put them on speakerphone, go through all of this information, save their life. If there are other people around, you're going to directly pick somebody out of the crowd, point at them, make direct eye contact, and say, you, call 911. This is going to stop what we call the bystander effect of people standing around, not sure who's going to call 911, and that just delays the time that it takes for EMS to get there and give this victim the care that they need. So, what does the B stand for? The B of ABCs is for bleeding. You're going to see if they're bleeding and recognize whether or not it's life-threatening. So, to see if somebody's bleeding, you might have to move clothes out of the way to get eyes on the wound. And once you get eyes on that wound, you need to know if it's life-threatening or not. So, that could mean that blood is spurting out of the wound, their blood is pooling on the ground or wherever they may be, their clothes could be soaked with blood, there could be partial or complete loss of a limb, or the person may be confused or unconscious. That means that they are bleeding out and could die soon. So you need these ABCs. So the C, simple enough, compression. There are 3 ways that you can compress a blood vessel to stop the bleeding. So that is either just holding pressure, packing a wound, or applying a tourniquet. So let's talk about holding pressure. You're going to take any clean cloth that you can find, as long as it's clean. That's very important. Make sure it's clean. It could be their shirt, your shirt, a blanket you have in your car, whatever. You're going to take that item and you're going to press it over their wound and you're just going to hold pressure like crazy. And if that does not stop the bleeding, or you see that the wound is particularly deep or large, you're going to move on to what we call packing a wound. So you're going to take that clean material and you're going to wrap it around a finger. Let's say this is the wound, and you're going to plunge that into the wound. Then you're going to take more, wrap it around your finger, plunge that into the wound. And you're going to keep doing this until you cannot fit your finger or any more cloth into that wound. Then you're going to put the rest of that cloth over the wound, push down as hard as you can, and hold that pressure. So the third way, applying a tourniquet, this instruction comes from the American Red Cross. So when you apply a tourniquet, it's going to be to a limb and only a limb. That means an arm or a leg. No shoulders, no necks, no groins. So you're going to want it to be 2 to 3 inches above the wound. And let's say that wound is close to a knee or an elbow, you're going to go above that joint. Because if you put a tourniquet on a joint, it's not going to be effective and they're still going to bleed out. So I'm going to demonstrate this by putting it around my arm, but essentially you're going to either slide their limb through it, or the strap comes all the way off if you're not able to just slide their arm through it, and you can put it around it. But you're going to pull as tight as you can with that and just secure the Velcro. Then you have this little metal thing. It's called a windlass. You're gonna turn it. If I can get this Velcro on down here. You're gonna take the windlass and you're gonna turn it 2 to 3 times until that person is screaming because they're in so much pain and the blood has stopped. I say screaming in pain because it is going to hurt a lot. That means it's working. So once it's turned and your bleeding has stopped, you're gonna secure it in the little plastic piece and put this little thing over it. I'll take this off for a second and show you, but notice how mine has the word time written on it. Time is very important when you put on a tourniquet. That's out of the scope of this speech, but either remember the time or write it down because it's important. So now that we've covered the ABCs, let's go back to that initial scenario at the beginning. So you see the accident, you go to the car, what are you gonna do? First, you're gonna make sure you're safe. There's no oncoming traffic, the car's not smoking, you're safe, you can help him. So A, you're gonna alert 911. If you're the only one there, you're gonna call 911. If there's other people, direct somebody to do it. B, bleeding. So you see that this man has blood pooling out of his pants. That means that it's life-threatening and you need to move on to C, compression. So you can either just hold pressure on the wound with that cloth, you can pack it with that cloth, or you can apply a tourniquet if you have one. But pick one of those methods and that will help you stop the bleed and thus save this person's life. So I hope that this gives you all the information you need to recognize a life-threatening bleed, apply compression, pack a wound, or apply a tourniquet confidently in order to stop the bleed and save somebody's life. Thank you guys for listening.